did one thing right. He introduced 6 pieces of legislation that were pro-public safety, anti-criminal. And they killed all 6 of those bills every single year. These people are pro-criminal. We have the highest number of paroled criminals of violence on the streets in the nation. Giordano was talking about numbers. We have the highest early release rate of violent criminals in the nation. Mosby, the state's attorney, has the lowest conviction rate of violent criminals and murderers in the nation. You understand that the police lock them up and put up the yellow tape. The state legislature decides how long they will stay in jail, when they will get out, who the judges are, how many prisons will be built, what the sentencing is, and they fund the state's attorneys. It is the Senate and the House, not the police. And to be fair, Brandon Scott has no real power. What he's doing wrong is he's not standing on camera and keep saying, this is unacceptable. I mean, I don't know who his political advisor is, but I would say, Mayor, every time somebody gets murdered, don't go on camera. Because you're contributing nothing. You're offering no solutions. But the bottom line is, if Brandon Scott would say this, I am telling my black caucus, brothers and sisters, stop voting for criminals. Yeah. I am telling the city delegation, stop voting for criminals. That is the only answer. The Baltimore Sun is against that. The Democrat Party is against that. And we will never, they keep saying, oh, we're going to have 300 murders. We're going to have 400 murders. Baltimore County counts. We broke the record in Baltimore County this year. We're going to have 400 murders and 1,200 shootings in Baltimore City and Baltimore County combined. This is the metro area. The stuff that's happening in the city is coming into the county. Johnny Olszewski raised the budget by 8%, our taxes. You know how much he raised the budget for the police department? Less than 1%. We have 10 precinct stations in Baltimore County. They're all under code, under standard, and dilapidated. We don't have a real training center for the police. We have 110 police short. It's not just Baltimore City. But here's the real number. We have 500 officers out of 2,500 who are on the retirement list that are going to leave. And our officers are leaving because we're among the lowest paid. Now that's Baltimore County. So this is a dangerous problem. Until the Baltimore Sun, which will, and I told you earlier, it's a rag that's disappearing, thank God. Until the people of this state realize that the politicians in the legislature are the ones that are causing the crime and the drugs, not the police. We should fully fund the police, and we should have it. But Giordana just makes us proud every time she speaks. Now, before we move on, I want to offer a toast. A toast to America, okay? You don't have to hold your glasses up. You don't have to stand. Amy, you have to stand up. We are Americans. We are pioneers. We are pathfinders. We settled the new world. We built the modern world. We changed history forever by embracing the eternal truth that everyone is made equal by the hand of Almighty God. America is a place where anything can happen. America is a place where anyone can rise. Here on this land, this soil, this continent, the most incredible dreams come true. We look at tomorrow and we see unlimited frontiers waiting to be explored. Our brightest discoveries are not yet known. Our most thrilling stories are not yet told. Our greatest journeys are not yet made. The American age, the American epic, The American adventure has just begun. Our spirit is still young and still rising. God's grace is still shining upon us, and the best is yet to come. President Donald John Trump. Now, he made that as his closing remarks at his State of the Union speech, the last State of the Union prior to the COVID descending upon us, the Chinese pandemic. Do you remember that? That was when Nancy Pelosi was standing behind him, Nancy the squirrel, tearing up his speech.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Those great words of freedom. She was tearing up his speech. That's America today. All right, now, just for a few minutes before we get to our legislators, where is Dee Hodges? Dee's going to come up. Dee is a super citizen, and she and her group have done a little bit of research about some of the bills and laws that are being promoted or put together in the red states. Now, you know what a red state is? That's a Republican governor, a Republican legislature. That means they can get things done, okay? And they are getting stuff done. Mississippi is going to give us the prayers we have prayed for 40 years. Mississippi, God bless you.
Let me tell you, this is a lot to come after. I want to thank Jolie McShane, who is sitting right there. Stand up, Jolie, because she was the one, and I've left a piece of paper. Mine has writing on it, but you all got these little pieces of paper, and you can go to www.dailyclout.io, and you can find what other states have done. But I want to tell you, right next door, West Virginia, they have made it so the money follows the student.
Yeah.
We don't need to be the worst state. We should copy the best. Secondly, the same thing that they're doing is they are working to get rid of their state income tax.
Wow.
So, and Joe Manchin, a Democrat, seems to be more on our side than he is on the other side. Okay. My little talk is not terribly long, but I'm going to refer to some of the key issues. I sent to every Republican delegate and senator and every county council person, and then some others outside of the county, a whole list of what Jolie had put together about some of the bills and ideas that have worked in other states. But I want to say this. We want a fair election. And we know that in Maryland, we probably haven't had a fair election in 20, 30, 40 years. Baltimore City is always crooked. And I wonder how those people feel, because they know it's stolen. And it's owned by one party. When something is owned by one party, you don't have a debate, and you don't have a well-run place. But we have been pretty passive with what has happened. They vote the wrong way, we don't like it, but we accept it because it was done. Let's do things like bring up voter ID again, and they'll vote against it, and we can just slam them in the next campaign about what they're doing.
Yep.
There are only 15 states, and Maryland is one of them, that has no semblance of voter ID. Apparently, since Maryland is blue, the Democrats really, really think that they would rather have fraudulent elections and be in charge of the state. But I think that we can let people know that of what they are doing. They don't want fair elections, they want fraudulent elections. There are other things having to do with the election, like watermarking our ballots and getting rid of the ES&S voting machines. ES&S is voted by Dominion, is owned by Dominion. Dominion, in the long run, is owned by China, and so is the software that goes in it. And I think it's been shown that in some areas, a lot of areas of the country, the vote from last year was affected by, I guess, algorithms that came from China and other places. We can't have that anymore. We need to count the ballots. Not let the machines count in whatever algorithm that they want. Secondly, Jordana talked about education. We've got to stop the indoctrination. I have a 5-year-old in kindergarten. I'm terrified. And she's in Northern California. It doesn't matter where you are in the country. They even have porn. They try to persuade that being a trans person is okay. I kind of think if you're born a male or a female, that's what you are. And I accept that some people are gay. And some people might prefer to be the other sex, but they can never function as the other sex. They would never be able to have children, etc., etc. And fooling kids into taking hormone shots at the age of 9 or 10 without letting parents know is sinful. It's more than sinful. It's criminal. So we have to stop that. Maryland has passed it. On vaccine passports, we don't need any digital passports. We have a member of our club, Reggie Littlejohn, who's done a lot of work in China. And she says that these passports could become a lot like China's social credit system. That's the way China keeps track of all of its people. If they do something wrong. Was it wrong of that tennis star to claim that she had been raped by a Communist Party insider? But we've done really nothing about that. And let's see, I'm coming to the end, but what I want is, I think what we all want is we want legal immigration, not illegal immigration. We don't want illegals to pile into the country and be able to vote. And the last thing that I put on this list was an article that was written, and you will want to read it. I printed it out for myself, but this is all local. This is what we can do. We can go after companies that do things that are woke. Like the Salvation Army recently started preaching wokeness. How did they do that? But they did it. But they've had so many complaints, they're now withdrawing all this stuff. This is what we need to do. We need to pile on to the companies that are doing this. Walmart, other big companies. The pillow guy, my pillow guy, he his ads were off of Fox News, but I noticed that they're right back because our people complain. So this is what we can do in small ways. Complain, write letters to the editor of anything, and email the legislature. Testifying before this legislature is not going to be easy. They're going to make it very, very hard. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Dave. I'm going to ask Delegate Joe Boder to come up, and also Delegate Rick Impalaria, and Delegate Susan McComas. Come on up. What we're going to try to do is we're going to pick the major issues that are coming up in the General Assembly.
We're live here at Columbus Gardens.
Next week,
Pat McDonough.
Next week,
And,
we're going to have
Super Citizen.
the sessions for
Stay
redistricting. And that the legislators are going to decide on the redistricting, and this is for the Congress. We have one Republican, Andy Harris, and they think that that's one Republican too many. So they've already drawn their maps, and I want to start off with the legislators, and we'll just go break down the line. Your thoughts, and we'll conclude with their, whatever piece of legislation they believe is important that they are introducing. But
I'm not a legislator.
all right. Anyway, Susan, we'll start with you. Redistricting, the session that's coming up for Congress, what do you think is going to happen? See if that works.
Well, I think what's going to... Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think what's going to happen is all the redistricting legislation is going to go to the Rules Committee. Now, the interesting thing about the Rules Committee is that it is under the thumb of the Speaker in the House and the President in the Senate. So they don't do anything that the Speaker or the President of the Senate wants to have happen. So traditionally, I was on the Rules Committee for 4 years, and then I decided, since I was going to come here tonight and talk, I thought, well, I'll just check who the membership is. Well, guess what? I'm no longer on the Rules Committee. Nobody called, nobody told me, and to be quite honest with you, I'm kind of like Miff, because I like the Rules Committee. So I'm not on there. They've got 20 Democrats and 6 Republicans. So you can kind of see how that's going to go, right? Well, traditionally, the governor's put in his redistricting bill every year to the Rules Committee, and it has never even gotten out of the committee, ever. And so this year, when he puts his citizens redistricting bill in the Rules Committee, it's going to get the hearing, and then it's going to be crickets. Now, they may vote, they'll vote it down, or they may just not take a vote. And we have a pretty tyrannical chair for that committee, Ann Healy, and I have a word for her, which I won't repeat, it's not nice, but she sticks people to the exact time, and I think she gives them like maybe 3 minutes, and it can be very complicated subjects, and I think the rest of us might be willing to listen to more, but no, she cuts them right off, and it doesn't matter who you are. She's just very, very brutal about that. So that's what's going to happen is that the two different, the speaker's version and the president's or the governor's version of the congressional redistricting will go through that committee. Certainly, it's going to be now. It'll go through the committee, then it'll get voted out, and then it will go to the House. And then the House, they can put amendments in. Everybody, I can put amendments in. Anybody can, put amendments in the House and the Senate. And both the bills will be, initially when they go to the House, Bill 1 and Bill 2. Bill 1 will go to the House. Bill 2 will be the Senate bill. That's exactly the same. And then, they may end up having to have a conference committee if the two bills, this thing that's coming out of the Senate is different than the one that comes out of the House. But I don't think what the governor's citizens committee wants is going to happen. I mean, We've got veto overrides that we're going to be dealing with, and then I think the governor, I haven't had a chance to study this, but he's putting in some criminal justice bills in to kind of clean up what's going on down in Baltimore City, because nobody's trying to cooperate. You know, and I did an interview on WBAL.
All right, Susan, we gotta move along.
Okay, all right, I'm moving on. Well, anyway, the point is we have a lot of tremendous institutions in Baltimore City, museums, churches, universities, hospitals, and we've got all this crime down there, and it's like nobody's like getting together, and we can't get the three branches of government to get together and say what the hell's going on, because who's at fault? Is it the state's attorney? Is it the liberal judges? Is it the poor legislation? Is it the defunding of the police? So what exactly is going on? And we really need to know. And we've got research. He's cutting me off. So anyway, don't give a microphone. You regret it.
Well, wait a minute.
Bada bing, bada boom.
You're next. But here, Susan pretty much told you what's happening. Rick, if you have a thought, does anybody else have a thought? On a redistricting, we'd like to hear if you have a thought. But let's keep it to a minute, okay?
I'm going to tell you simply, redistricting, we don't know what's going to happen to what happens. With all these years of talking about the fact that the governor's in charge, he's really not. It will eventually go to the court, and we'll see what the courts do. So, to be honest with you, there is no answer to the redistricting. You can talk all you want, but we don't have a say. But what I did want to quickly talk about was when we talk about the indoctrination of our children, which is very important because they're the most valuable asset that we have. And what are they being indoctrinated for? They're being taught that government is their God.
Yep.
And when government is your God, it can give you a paycheck that you did not work for. It can give you a home that you did not save for. It can put food on your table that you didn't plan for. It will indoctrinate and educate your children. It will give you free health care. But there is one thing that government, as your God, cannot give you. There is one thing it has no chance to give you. Does any of you know what that is? Wrong. Wrong. It cannot give you eternal life. Only Jesus Christ can give you eternal life. That's it. And that is what they don't want your children to know. They want your children to believe this is it. And brother, if this is it, we might just all go out like Jim Jones and that market on.
There you go.
Because it isn't worth it. So, very simply, I do have one piece of legislation that's very important to me in Baltimore County. I'm doing it with Joe and Harford County. I got it myself. It's an elected school board. Because we should be able to elect who's in charge of our most valuable asset. And we should know what they stand for before they take that job. And we should know, do they stand for vocational training? Do they stand for the new training of painting each other? But anyway, the great delegate of God is asking me to move on. I'm showing him up, but that's all right. Here.
You know that lion tamer at the circus? This is my job. Anyway, Delegate Boder, do you have any comments on redistricting?
No, not really. I think.
Okay, well, Susan covered it. Susan covered it. But anyway, Rick mentioned about the courts. It goes to the Court of Appeals. I think they now call it the Court of Appeals. I'm not yet sure. But anyway, 5 of the 7 judges were appointed by the governor, and the chairman of the Court of Appeals, it was appointed by the governor. So we have 5 Republicans. Might be doing pretty good when the redistricting goes to the Court of Appeals. We'll have to see what happens. But Joe, it seems like we've jumped the shark here. So if you don't have it, you do have it. Let's go to the piece of legislation that's important to you.
Yeah, well, as Rick mentioned, that is one of the pieces that I do believe is important. The other one, because education is the battleground, folks. That is where the fight really is. That's where they're going to change our entire society if they win at the end of the day. One of the things that that I'm putting in legislation, and that is to put the curriculum and the books that they're using in the school to put it online, so that parents can have access to it and see exactly what the teachers in the school system are teaching our children. That's very, very important. They have over the years, this has been a gradual process moving in the direction that they have. When I first got elected, this is what I saw, what they called outcome-based education at the time. And there was a Stuart Berger who actually was brought here to be the change agent for the school system. But I tell you what, I never imagined back then that we would be at this point where you have really not teaching our children anymore. It's propagandizing them. And it is teaching them, a Marxist, godless form of education, pitting one kid against another based on race. It's sort of what communism has always was class warfare. They've learned to make it race warfare. And if you all remember what Khrushchev said, he said, "We will bury you from within." And that's exactly what they're doing.
Thank you, Jeff. Senator Saley, number one, if you have any comments about the redistricting and also the legislation and the issue that you will be very interested in with the session when it comes in January.
I think more important than anything, when it's all said and done, the legislation is going to the court. And I think they'll have the final say. And the only good thing about that is, and it is the only good thing, is the government did set up the courts this past few years. So we do have somewhat of an opportunity to get something out of this. That's the only good thing I think we can get out of the congressional, possibly, but legislative. We can pick up some seats. I know we can fight that. One thing you have to realize when we're in the Senate. When we're in the Senate, we are fighters. There's only 15 of us out of the 27 on the other side. But we are always prepared and we always fight. We might lose the war, but we always have won the battle, and they know it because we're well prepared. So we always fight with amendments, as these guys in the House, they have stack of amendments that they fight all the time that they always refuse. But we remember one thing. As has been said, we have great opportunity in 22. We need to take advantage of that. And how can we take advantage of that? There's one thing I got to say about the Democrats. After the primary, they get together and they fight. We infight. We have to stop that. We got to work together as a team and be a well-machined team and fight together as unified team and let the Democrats realize we're going to come at you. We're going to get you. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm going to fight for, the one that I believe is important, is called the 9/11 Project. Every kid in our state, they need to know what happened in 9/11. And it needs to be in every school. And you understand what happened, why it happened, and even watch video of that. Right. To understand that at any given time this could happen again. We need to be prepared. We need to be well prepared. And these kids need to know they need to stop giving our children the critical race theory and everything else that's a lie, and give them the truth and let them know that we know.
Thank you, Senator. Susan, in her extremely long remarks,
No.
failed to mention, I just thought of it myself, that these guys are next week going to be working on congressional redistricting. When they go into session in January, they're going to be working on legislative redistricting, or legislative district. Now, there are, I think, 188 legislators in the Senate. There are how many? There's 47 state senators, and how many are Republicans? 15. How many? And the rest are communists. Now, in the House, That's oh, he's in the Senate. Yeah, he's a communist Republican. There's 141 in the House, and 91 are communists. So you can see the numbers are not good. Now, very quickly, Senator Saley mentioned 911. Super Citizen and Respect the Constitution, our nonprofit law firm, we developed a program called Safe Kids 911. And here's what that means. President Obama and President Biden passed an executive order that administrators and principals cannot report violence or bullying in their schools. And in the state of Maryland, we're talking about the legislature, the state legislators reinforced that crazy policy. It was racist. The reason they passed it was they said that black kids were more than other white kids were being disciplined, and that was a pathway to prison. So this is why they do not respond when a child is violently attacked or assaulted. Today we had at Franklin High School, I believe it was, a young woman who was in shock trauma was assaulted. The murder in Michigan, there were 40 incidents in that school that the police did not know about. So here's what Safe Kids 911, which Senator Saley is graciously supporting, and so is our county executive candidate, Darren Badillo. Here's what we tell people. If your child is assaulted, file a complaint with the local police department, not the school. Respect the Constitution, and Super Citizen will support you legally. We will protect your family. We will file a civil lawsuit against the other child and the school. And in addition to that, you see, children under the 14th Amendment are citizens, and they are entitled to due process and equal protection under the law. That means you can't send a kid to trauma, and there will not be consequences. That's what Safe Kids 911 is all about. Delegate Metzger, you have a waiver to use exceptional time.
Well, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, aren't you glad you come to Super Citizen all the time?
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
We have a lot of time. I'm limited.
there's never been a time that we've come to Super Citizen that we don't learn something that's fascinating and exciting. And I feel like after Lieutenant Governor Schiavinelli has talked, I want to go vote right now. We talked about early voting. I think we can get the job done tonight. But I need to tell you that I am going to make an official endorsement a little bit later. But when I heard the governor call a fellow legislator a terrible name, that bothered me and should bother everyone. When you go to childish things and start calling people names, that's the lowest of the lowest, and I'm very upset at that. But I will tell you that when I look at a man that's got vision, leadership, and integrity, that's who I'm going to support. Well, I appreciate my colleagues, even the lengthy.
Oh.
I just kidding. But today we had a Zoom conference with the Baltimore County Superintendent. And Delegate Impalera, I texted him, and he didn't respond. And then Delegate Butler, I never texted him because he never responds either. But I told the superintendent, you talk about transparency, but you're not transparent.
So where was the public today?
So where was the public?
Yeah.
So today, he skirted entirely around all the issues.
Yeah.
And it came time for the hand raise kind of thing. And I really raised my hand last, but the chairman recognized me first. No offense, guys, but he did. And I guess I was, let me be honest, I came from a funeral, so I was down. And I guess the anointing hit me to speak a little different. But I said, sir, you said that you were transparent, but you ran from Fox Television. You never address the issue. You said you want to talk. I said, when we go to incidents in the county and we see problems, we say, where is Dr. Williams? And he's nowhere to be found. Well, he came back. Well, they tell part of the story. Did I not what he said? They don't tell the truth. I said to myself, Mr. Papps is an award-winning investigative reporter, and he has won awards. Do you think he's going to get an award for telling a lie? I don't think so. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the time we have in Baltimore County, and I'm going to support, co-sponsor that bill for the superintendent to be elected because it's that much important. Also, I feel like I want to put the bill in. By the way, the Supreme Court is here in the Mississippi heartbeat bill. That was my bill 3 years ago that I put into Annapolis, and the senator co-sponsored. It's in the Supreme Court. So we feel like that's going to make a good headway. The second bill I'm going to put in, I put in 2 years ago, and they laughed at it. Never even got a vote in the committee. That if a person that commits a crime and he does a plea bargain, and he does the plea bargain, and he goes back and does that another crime, and he's coming back in, I want the same amount of time that he was supposed to get on the first crime to be carried over to the second crime, and he's not eligible for parole until he does the entire crime. The third bill that I'm putting in again.
How many are there?
There's just one bill. The other bill
Took that waiver seriously.
the unprotection bill for the human rights of the young woman. If that baby has a heartbeat, it has a human right.
Yes.
I'm supporting that bill passed in Oklahoma and is law. That if a baby has the heartbeat, they cannot do the abortion. I love you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Pray for all of us.
Okay, I think we should give a standing ovation to Valerie, who's in the other room holding hostage those men and their music. Did she get back in? Oh, she's here now. Did you bring your firearm with you? I'm telling you, that's where I thought she went. Right the minute she went out that door, they stopped.
Stop.
All right, well,
I was next door.
I just said that here. You weren't listening. I mean, as usual, you were not listening.
Hey.
All right. It's getting out of control, which is where we like it. Anyway, we're going to go back for a second round, and you can talk about anything you want within reason. Try to keep it maybe 2 minutes or whatever, but we'll start with Susan. We're going to come back. Oh, okay, that's enough.
One thing I would like to do, and we have never gotten it out of our committee. I was on the child custody work group, and so several times we put the bill in that basically codifies all of the case law that judges consider when they're hearing custody cases. And most of the people now are going through divorce and custody without legal representation. So it's really important that they be able to go to one document that they can kind of look at what the factors are that would be annotated, so then if they wanted to look at the case law, they could. And so they could just get a flavor of what the judge is going to be looking at, whether he'll consider joint custody or sole custody and all the different factors. So I'm seriously thinking about putting this back in, even though it's been bumped out a number of times, because I think it will help the citizenry in the long term, because a lot of people can't afford attorneys now. So anyway, I'll shut up.
And Delegate Polari.
Thank you. I thought I said it all, but I will tell you that we are in very dangerous times. And when we're in very dangerous times, we should always be on whenever we go out. And I am on. I'm on right now. I never leave the house without my weapon. This is my weapon. You know what that is?
The rosary.
Every morning I pray, and I pray especially for the unborn children and for our
Your
children.
prayers didn't answer there.
So, with that, that's the number one thing that will help us get the answers that we need from him above. We have to ask him for it. We have to be direct, and we have to let him know we care every single day. And for the people that are down there fighting, without that, we're unarmed. So please be armed with us.
Thank you very much. And you know, it's fascinating. You never think in America sometimes that something can actually happen. I remember back in 1994 when we won the House of Delegates for the first, I'm sorry, we're talking about the House of Delegates. When we won the House of Representatives with Newt Gingrich, remember the Contract for America? I never ever thought we'd see the day when the Republicans took the House of Representatives. And I'll tell you that one of the most important things in my lifetime, just thinking about what Rick was saying, you know, this country has done so many things, not us, I think we've been pretty good people, but evil things like abortion. The radical left is Marxist, ungodly, they hate God, they're anti-Christ, okay? But you think God would give up on us, and here in a little southern state like Mississippi, the children have a fighting chance. Isn't that amazing that God is...
Yep.
Thank you, Ben. You know, Pat had talked a little bit earlier in reference to the police here in Baltimore County, and that they really don't have a good training facility. I've been working with the FOP on this issue, and
I think the chief is calling.
I think that is, but she can wait.
Oh.
I'll hear it later, but she can wait. So I have been working with the police on that issue, but another issue that they have a problem with is their gun range. Their gun range is almost 50 years old. It's very outdated. They have to train constantly in the use of their weapons, and they have an indoor facility that they really cannot use for a very long period of time because of all the lead that's in the air.
That's right.
From them using that facility. So I will be putting in a bond bill that will help them rebuild that facility. And I hope that this will be for Baltimore County. So I hope that some of you folks, when you see it out there, please respond to the other legislators in Baltimore County and say, we want this. You know, the training facility is a lot more money. It's going to take a little bit more work on that, and that's something we are working on too. Because what's happening with the attitude that's out there, for instance, their training facilities right here at Dundalk Community College, and the trouble is the college constantly is preventing them from using the facility. Oh, we have this going on, we have that going on. So it's very hard to train these folks. And part of the whole argument on the other side is that, well, you know, police need more training, but yet they're preventing that from happening too. So that's some of the issues that I will be working on. There's going to be a number of issues in my committee, which is Ways and Means.
That was good.
And I have some other bills that I'm going to be introducing dealing with education. I want to see civics.
All right, Joe.
For instance,
Gotta move on.
cross that. Yeah. There you go. All right.
Anyway, that bond issue that Joe's talking about, it's going to be really interesting since it's pro-police to see how the General Assembly supports that bond issue. And remember we said that Johnny O increased the budget 8% and increased the budget for the police less than 1%. He should be taking care of that. He should be funding that. But you know what they did? They passed 6 anti-cop laws last year in the Baltimore County Council. 6 anti-cop laws, and the Republicans voted for them. Wade Catch and David Marks voted for those bills. The only Republican that did not vote was the great Todd Crandall from Dundalk. God bless Todd Crandall, let me tell you. Senator?
Thank you. One thing that I would like for every person here to do every day while we're session is pray. I'm the chaplain for the Republican Party in the Senate, and I'm honored to have that opportunity to do that. But one thing that I have done, I ask God for wisdom, for strength, for courage, and to give me the right words to say, not what I want to say, what I can say for Him, for His glory. God gives us breath and life for Him. And we need to continue to thank Him each and every day for the blessings that we have. So one thing, and the greatest thing that you can do, is pray for us, so we can be well prepared and say the right thing to make them realize more than anything. You better start honoring God and yourself. We can do that.
Yeah.
And I'm also the vice chair of the Veterans Caucus for the Senate. And we want to do more for our veterans. They are worthy. They have sacrificed. They have given. And we want to give back to them. So I work with our Veterans Caucus on the House, in the House and in the Senate. And we do all that we can. When we get all those bills in, we work together, we try to pass them. So we want to help our veterans. We want to do all we can for our veterans. So I always say this, if there's anything that interesting you have, maybe something that's concerning to you, we work for you. We want to do what's best and what's right for you. Come to us. Reason with us, and let's work together to do great things for Maryland. Thank you.
And close it out, I'm Rick. This is Rick and Blair.
That's Rick and Blair. I'm Rick.
You're going to pray a full minute.
I just want to say one more time that the joy of the Lord is my strength. And by going to Annapolis, I feel your prayers, because we cannot do this without the prayers of the people. But I'm also going to put a bill in. We have, you remember George Bush said we had 1,000 points of light. We have in our area one of the greatest points of light, and that's MedStar Franklin Square. And we've worked very hard and very close with MedStar. But I'm going to be putting a bond bill in this year, because the neonatal, if you've ever had an experience to tour the neonatal in Franklin Square, it's a beautiful facility, but believe it or not, it's almost 30 years old and it's obsolete already. New technologies. So we're going to be, the senator and I are going to be putting in a major bill for that. So we covered your prayers on that. These bond bills is very unique and very, very different, but they really help our community. And I love bringing the money, as they say, bring the bacon back home.
Thank you very much, Rick. How about a sign of applause and appreciation for Delegate Hippolario, Delegate Hilliard, Delegate McCombs, Delegate Metzger, and State Senator Johnny Ray for sharing their time with us. Really do appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. I want to mention, yes, sir.
Ice cream.
Oh, we have ice cream. We have ice cream. And I also want to mention, I thought, see, you're such a humble person. You raised your hands. I thought you were trying to signal me. Running for the House of Delegates, Valerie McDonough. Now I can go home.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming. God bless America. God save America. And let's take back America.
Yeah. There you go. That was it. And I'll say thank you, Pat McDonough, with his good friend Ron Savage, with another wonderful, informative evening. He said it all. Good night.
We got to get these signs back.